Thank you all for coming. Today's topic will be pictures that sell. It's about pictures for e-commerce and selling products online. I have a question for you. Who of you is selling products online? Show me your hand. Perfect. Who of you is selling pictures on Amazon? Show me your hands. Pretty much everyone is selling products online. Awesome. So we are Produkt.Vision. I'm the founder of this agency. We do video, 3D renderings and design for Amazon sellers. We've done it for over 2 years, have done a lot of projects since then, based in Cologne. And let me tell you about the importance of picture, because picture quality is actually inevitable to stay competitive long term, and let me explain to you why. I think we all agree that picture quality influences sales, right? I think if you have questions to that, there's a lot of Amazon coaches, for example, that you can ask. They will agree with me that pictures are one of the most, if not the most important thing when making a purchasing decision. So it's actually a good place to start when you want to improve your sales. Competition grows with time. I think you've all noticed new competition coming online, especially now there's also a demand growing since Corona. That both of these two things lead to picture quality rises, because you can actually be better than a competitor just by having nicer pictures, a better listing. So more also leads to the rise of picture quality. And in the long term, you can see that picture quality is actually necessary to be competitive. If all the other sellers are getting better and better pictures over time, it's actually quite... Wait, is it moving forward without me? It's actually demanding greater pictures over time. All right. Now, what is the next level I talked about? I think you all know pictures like this, because that's what most photographers and videographers are capable of. But there's a new level of product photography and videography rising, which does a lot more than just simple photography on white background. For example, you can explain your features in the pictures. Why would you want to have the viewer read the whole text if you can explain what the product is about right there in the picture? You can work with sales psychology. For example, you can raise emotions, use lifestyle pictures, and really make your listing very interesting. So people do not move away, are not not seeing other competitors on your page advertising. You can grab their attention, really keep it until they use the buy button. And lastly, you can optimize your pictures for Amazon. That means you can look at the rules, look at the opportunities that Amazon gives you, and really use it to your fullest extent, so you can use it to your advantage. And now on the right side, you actually see what a picture of the next level could look like. With graphic design, with 3D rendering, it looks a lot more interesting and a lot more beautiful than the actual product. Now here are some pillars of what to look out for in your pictures. If you work with those things, your listing will improve, your sales will improve. I think you've all heard that the main picture is the most important one. I can only repeat it. It really is important to get the visitor paying attention to you at all. So it has to be different, it has to be very visible, very large. I will tell you about that later on. As I said, visualize the important things of the product. Visualize what it is about, what are the USPs, what's different than with competitors' products. And I'm sure when you bring a product online, you thought of something that's better than a different product of the competitor. you really need to show that in the pictures as well. Third thing is create identification and build social proof. For example, if you use lifestyle pictures, people like a man and a woman using your backpack or your product, you immediately show with emotions preferably that your product is it's making them happy, is solving their problems, and people identify with that when they look at your pictures. Fourth thing is build trust and address concerns. With that I mean, for example, stand there as a brand that stands for something. If you want to make better mobile phones or clocks, you have a mission. You can state that in your pictures so you get the trust of the people. They believe in you, they believe in your mission, and it's more interesting than just standing for nothing and having a name that doesn't mean anything. You can also brand your pictures, for example, like I did with this blue, so that all the pictures are in a fluent design that represents your brand. Fifth thing is tell the important infos, that means measurements or everything that the person is getting when they order the product. They need to know those details to make the purchasing decision. And sixth, that I already talked about with branding, use beautiful graphic design to really illustrate the high quality of your listing and of your product. Because if the people are actually seeing something of high quality, it also gives the impression that the product itself has a high quality. You can really stop the competition over the price if you are seen as more of a quality brand. Now to the question that I get asked the most: what is the best picture format for Amazon? And let's test it. So right now we're on the search results. We use the product Diamond Disc that we did recently to compare it to other competitors who are using a different format. We did a slim picture while all the other people did one by one boring pictures. And now we can see what actually gets more space. So it's now about what's the biggest view. So on the desktop, we actually see that it's smaller. Like the picture estate, you call it, is not as big as the one-by-one pictures. While on the mobile version, the slim version actually gets more space. It's stretched vertically. It's larger than the one-by-one pictures. Now, the next thing are when you click on the listing. So you've now seen in the search result, you click on it, what picture format is best now? Let's compare it. The slim version actually is smaller, it doesn't get any extra space, so the one-by-one version is actually larger here. On mobile, you can see it with the gray bar, it doesn't get stretched and the width is better on the one-by-one, so again a one-by-one aspect ratio is actually preferred. Now picture view. So after you are on the listing, you can expand the pictures and see them up close. Now we can see again which format is doing the best. The slim actually doesn't have a lot of extra space on desktop, so the picture estate is smaller than the one-by-one. But again, on the mobile, we do see that it's stretched vertically and the slim version actually gains some space, so it's shown bigger. To conclude, slim is better on mobile search results, mobile picture view. Square is better on desktop search results, mobile listing view, desktop picture view. We can now say it's 4-2, but the thing is, there's actually a trend for going mobile, because more and more people are actually using mobile devices to make the purchasing decision. It's called e-commerce, fancy word I thought, and it's increasingly relevant. It's hard to say like at what percentage we are mobile to desktop, but it's increasing. I still do recommend one-by-one right now, because the advantage of a slim version is very slight, but if you aim for one-by-one and you do have a product that is fairly small, very slim, it's totally fine to use the slim version. It will be better on mobile, but it may be slightly worse on desktop regarding the picture estate. Now, let me show you some interesting Amazon trends. That's basically what I talked about, this vertical image aspect ratio. On this listing of a customer of ours, we actually see Amazon pushing the slim format. The frame is actually vertical, where the pictures are fairly square. We can even see that on the iPhone listing, on the new one. Disclaimer, we didn't do that iPhone listing yet. But it's quite interesting because usually we are used to square frames for these pictures. So maybe in the future Amazon might actually decide to push the slim version even more. The next trend is wide and visual A+ content. We are used to A+ content that has black text on white background, which is fairly boring and will lose the interest of the customer fairly easily. We can instead use very big pictures that we upload underneath each other to have very visual content. We can easily show some more lifestyle situations, some more USPs, some ways to use the product. It's way more interesting than just text on white background or these old 1:1 pictures which only have a resolution of 150 times 150 pixels. Highly recommend, and nowadays we pretty much do this format for almost every one of our customers. Next trend, 3D rendering, and I always ask, like, who does know 3D rendering? It's 50-50. Some of it even use it right now. Some of it established a long time in the US, and with big companies like Apple, they even did their very first iPhone as a 3D rendering. We have 4 advantages when using 3D rendering. The first one is we can use this explosion graphics. I think you know what I mean by that. Second is we can use angles that are very hard to accomplish using traditional photography. And we can use cross sections. I mean, we can use a saw and cut the product apart, but it's easier to do it in 3D. And we can produce very clean images. The smaller you get, the more dirty every texture will get. Like if you're using a very small disc or jewelry, when you get up close, you always see scratches, dirt, dust, and so on. You can try to retouch, but then again, you have a huge depth of field when you're going close up with photography. Using 3D rendering, the images look way more clean. Of course, we can produce that realistic effect with dirt and so on, but if we don't want to have that, we get the result of very clean images. Now, how to brief your photographer? Because I do think that pretty much none of you give the photographers the right information or all information that you need, that the photographer needs to really do his best job with the pictures. If the photographer is good, he knows what he wants, but most people don't. We start with basic infos, of course. What was the product called? What is the scope of delivery? Measurements, all these things. Then, what are the features? And you would help the photographer actually by telling him what's the most important feature, because the most important features should be shown first. Target group. It is important for lifestyle pictures. It's important for graphic design. The photographer really needs to know what he's targeting. Then what situations should be shown, which stock photos should be used, what is the target group in the stock photos. If you have own ideas or you saw listings of competitors that you really liked or any pictures in advertising, show it to the photographer. He gets an idea of your style and is more likely to produce pictures that you really like. Branding. I think all of you who are selling have registered brands. You should have some kind of CI, graphic design, and if you have some rules, for example, color codes or logo color contrast and so on. You should all tell it to the photographer so he can actually produce pictures that are in that same style. And at the end is, when is the launch planned, and do you need the product back? Because sometimes people do need the product back, most of the times they don't. All right, another quick tip, use A/B testing. Maybe some of you use it actually. It's quite productive and will result in more sales overall if you know what pictures to use. We mostly produce two main pictures, so they can always be compared to each other, and then you know which one will actually produce the most sales. You can use different tools. If it's Amazon's experiment, I heard that they're soon going to be also testing A/B. You can also use Splitly, but I heard this will be discontinued, and Picfo is another solution for split testing. Now some picture examples, some tips that you can use to make your product interesting. Those are main images, and I think you know what I mean. Let things flow. It's way more interesting than just letting the product stand there on white background and nothing happens. I talked about the A+ content, the big pictures that can be uploaded underneath each other. Now you can use that distance, that very small distance that the pictures have to each other, because you can actually produce pictures that use two of the pictures to show the product. So these are now two A+ pictures, but underneath each other they produce one big one. Now let things explode. Amazon sometimes doesn't really like that exploding color in the background, but you can always use two pictures. If one doesn't get accepted by the algorithm, you can still use the safe version, so you still have your product online. But I think it's obvious that those pictures are getting far more attention than regular pictures. Next thing, use color. When you have the opportunity to include some colors in those listings, some popping, bright colors, it's obvious that they too get a lot of more attention. Use the reflector. I think that's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Almost everyone who's starting does that now in some way. But again, it's a trick that works. I highly recommend using it. I think it's looking very clean. Next, don't let there be a lifestyle picture where the people have to think about what are they actually seeing. Tell them what they should be seeing in that picture, what the advantage of the situation is. Use every picture as another argument to buy the product. Now get close, get even closer, get as close as possible. Those rings are actually this big. You should make them look interesting, right? If you're scrolling through Amazon and there is an object very small, you will not click on it. So just use the space you have, go very close. Every photographer usually learns to stay away, because if you take photos from a distance, there will be no distortion. But I actually found the distortion on Amazon quite interesting. It makes the product look very close to you. Another quick tip, use some nature, especially if you have products that are made of wood. Use the leaves to illustrate what wood they're made of. Of course, again, this is kind of crossing the boundary with the Amazon algorithm, but most of the time it does work. If it doesn't work, we still always send it back. So you can be sure that you stay online. All right, last thing, when should you invest in pictures? We learned that gaining picture quality over time, so the earlier you invest in it, the better. And invest in it, the more time you have to actually use the advantage of those pictures. Competitors may even stay away if they see a listing really great and they can't think of anything to improve. And last thing, winter is coming. We are here for Q4. I think, this is supposed to land on coming, but that's PowerPoint. We can all be happy that Christmas is not far away. I wish you all happy selling. And we are here at C83. If you have some questions, you can even show us your pictures and we tell you what to improve on it. Thank you for listening.